Hi, and welcome to The Bright Balloon, a podcast where I'm sharing bright ideas for your balloon business. My name is Sarah Meyer, and I'm a balloon business owner like you, and I love the creative side of what I do, but I really love the business side, which seems to be the part where most people struggle. So I'm here to help. Each week, I'm bringing you an episode full of bite-sized tips you can use to make tiny improvements to your business. I want you to make more money, eliminate stress, and learn along with me as we grow our creative businesses together. Welcome to The Bright Balloon. Hello and welcome to this episode. Today I'm chatting with my friend Amy, who owns It's My Party in Dyer, Indiana, and she has been in the balloon business for a very long time. And most recently, she has been working at her store, which is a retail location, and she has made the difficult decision to close that store. First, she turned it more into like a studio model, and then in this interview, you can hear her considering closing altogether and maybe going to more of a home-based business, part-time model. And I really appreciate how honest she is in this interview, because I think it's really challenging to be faced with having to pivot your business. And sometimes that's because there's not enough money. Sometimes in Amy's case, it's because it's just not something that you want to spend every waking hour grinding with. So again, I will let her speak for herself in this interview, but I just wanted to express my appreciation for delivering such a candid and honest interview when she didn't have to. She could have kept all of this to herself, but not only is she sharing it on the podcast, but you'll hear her mention a video diary at the end of the episode that she started making just for herself, and she's made it available on a private channel on YouTube, and I have enjoyed watching her process and again, her honesty in these videos. So we'll link those in the show notes, and you can watch the transformation. You can watch her struggle. Some days she's crying, some days she's excited because of the direction her business is going. Other days she wants to quit. Other days she gets a huge contract, and it's just, I don't think there's anything quite like it out there. I don't think that anyone has documented their business the way that Amy has. So I would encourage you to check out those links in the show notes. And without further ado, let's take a quick break and then get into this awesome interview with Amy. Hey friends, I wanted to take a second to tell you about Having a Party Wholesale. They are my preferred balloon distributor, and if you're not following them on Instagram, you're missing out. They post tons of free education for the balloon industry, in addition to updates on products that are coming in stock or new releases, and they really, really take care of us as balloon decorators. I had someone reach out the other day and ask if I order on Amazon, and I almost passed out. If you are ordering your balloons on Amazon, you are wasting so much money. You need a reputable balloon distributor to take you to that next level. So check out Having a Party Wholesale in the show notes wherever you're listening. All right, welcome to the episode, Amy Cullen. We met through Balloon Boss Mastermind. You're another balloon business owner in Indiana, and I've always been a huge fan of yours. You're very honest. You've had quite the journey in balloons, and your story is called It's My Party. So why don't you give us the brief history, how long you've been at it, and kind of what your business model is?
Sure. So I opened my business in 2009. So I have been in business since then. I started off as a 5,000 square foot retail store with a 4-foot balloon counter. And people just seemed interested in the balloons. So I quickly learned how to do balloons, because up until that point, I had no idea how to use helium, how to do anything. So that is how we started.
Was it like a party store, like paper goods and plates and that type of stuff?
Yes, it was just like Party City. It was aisles and aisles and aisles of anniversary, bachelorette, birthday, baby shower, all of the licensed anything that you would see in a Party City, we pretty much carried.
And then the balloons were just where the demand was, or what you were interested in?
So I really wasn't interested in them. It's kind of funny how it all started, but that's when people started coming to the store. I want balloons. I want balloons. They'd show me pictures. Can you do this? Can you do that? So I really followed the customer's lead, because that's where the customers were looking for I guess, a friendlier, better option than Party City. So
Sure.
I started to learn about balloons.
And then how did you go from that, like a party store, to now you're mostly decor, right?
Yes, there've been a lot of steps. About four, no, 3 or 4 years into the big store, I decided the balloons had become like 60, 70% of my business. I think I'm going to do just balloons. So we moved to a smaller little place in our strip mall. And then I had the solids and then birthday patterns. And then that's when I decided that I would just really, really zoom in and focus on the balloons because that's where the money was.
And then we are talking, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but we kind of started chatting because you're transitioning again. So why don't you talk about like recently your transitions, where you're going with your balloons, kind of open up as much as you want, but this is why I'm really interested to chat with you.
So we then became a full balloon store. I moved across the street to a little retail spot where I just have balloons. There's nothing else in my store except balloons. But up until a couple months ago, I still had store hours, and basically anybody could come in off the street and order a bouquet, get whatever they wanted to with balloons, walk in, walk out with it, like same day. And then when I went to Mastermind and I was comparing some numbers with some other balloon people, I was doing a tremendous amount of sales, but my average sale was $126. And I just realized that I was working way harder than a lot of other people in this industry.
And how do you track that? Like what's your actual method to tracking like your average sales? That's something that I'm just starting to track. I don't really have a sense of that. But what do you do? Do you have fancy software or do you just keep track?
It's not fancy. I just use the Square point of sale system, so I can just look into my Square system. What are my sales for the year? What's my average sale for the year? So it tells me all of that information.
So you were doing a lot of like same day, like walk in, walk out with like a balloon bouquet, and that was where kind of your lower end sales were coming from?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And in order to do all of those lower end sales, I always had to have 2 or 3 people in the store. So my
Sure.
payroll costs on those lower end sales, you have 3 people here an hour. I mean, that really adds up. You've got to do a lot of lower end sales to meet that payroll.
Absolutely. All right. So then what was your big transition?
So I decided that I was going to close the retail portion of the store and just work by appointment only. And currently it's a Wednesday and it's during the day, and my lights are out in the store and I'm using the store for production. So I made that decision at Summit, and it's probably been one of the harder decisions I've made because all along, like, the customers were driving my decisions. I was listening to the customers, but now I'm listening to the education, the balloon experts, people in the community who know more than I do. And now it's like a different kind of a shift because I'm not really listening to the customers, and I feel like I'm letting them all down. I feel like I'm betraying them. They pound on the door and I want to let them in.
Yeah, yeah. But I also think you're listening to yourself. Like, I think that's hard to do, harder than people think. Like, feeling that burnout and knowing that what you're doing is sort of working and kind of abandoning that model. Like, I think that's really hard. Like, I fall victim to that all the time too. It's like, well, if I just keep going, things will stay the same and that feels comfortable. But like, knowing that if you change, that things might change for the better. Like, I think that's the scarier choice.
Yes, yes. And I just keep thinking, and my friends say it to me all the time too, to thine own self be true. Like, and I'm really trying to be true to myself because I work a ton of hours, like
Yeah.
literally 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. And I heard people at Summit and they're like, oh, yeah, I have a store. I work 12 hours a day. And I'm like, I don't want to work that hard. I mean, honestly, I am not afraid to work hard, but like, I would like to have time for friends, time for family, time for other things in my life. And I feel like I was spinning, and I do feel like I am being true to myself. And that does feel, it's hard, but it feels really good.
Yeah, yeah. So you now tell me about I guess tell me about the shift. You said that happened a couple months ago. What has that done? Have you seen a reduced number of sales? Are you keeping all your people on staff? Like how, because I know someone else who also did this a couple months ago, and she also agreed that it was a really hard transition, but mostly for the positive, I think. How has it been working out so far for you?
So, um, the past 2 weeks, I've done $20,000 in sales, and my average sale is $463.
So like tripled?
So my average sale has tripled. No,
That's
I mean,
amazing.
this is Amazon peak season, so I have a lot of $3,000 and $4,000 invoices. So I don't know if this would happen any other time of the year,
Sure.
but absolutely for sure, when my mind is kind of wrapped around the bigger picture and like the bigger things I'm trying to attract, and when my mind isn't like thinking about I've got to do 30 orders before the store opens on Saturday, there's a huge mental shift. And I think that the universe just filled that wide open space that used to be filled with small orders with a lot more big orders.
Yeah.
It's been awesome.
Absolutely. Well, and I work a full-time job. And I like my job, which is what keeps me at it. But I do also have those doubts of like, well, how much more could I really do in balloon sales? Like if I leave my full-time job, could I fill that time with other balloon stuff, or am I maxed out? And everyone I talk to is always like, you will fill it. Like if you have that free time to network and market and do the things that you don't currently have time to do, like you will fill it with sales. And that I I hear you saying that that kind of is what happened to you. Like you were able to fill that little mental clutter with bigger picture, bigger projects, and almost will it into existence.
Absolutely. That's absolutely what happened. Yes.
Are you doing anything like concrete that we can maybe replicate? Like are you filling your Monday through Wednesday with specific tasks? Like are you going to networking events, or are you making a point to reach out to people, or you're just now consumed with your big jobs?
I think one of the benefits of being in business as long as I have is I don't have to spend as much time networking. In the beginning I did. I was constantly networking, constantly out there, chamber, this, that. Right now I'm not networking, but I've got one lady from Amazon who keeps sending me to every other lady at Amazon, and it's been pretty incredible.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Um, and so like what's your long-term plan? I mean, not that you have to have it all figured out, but like where are you going to go from here? Maintain these hours, or are you hoping to step back even more and keep your employees on staff?
So we have let almost all of our employees go. We just have them coming in for jobs. I've let them know if we have jobs, we'll give you the opportunity to work those hours. My daughter, who's been here the longest, she's graduating college on Saturday, so she's leaving. I don't feel bad about taking away her job, but my long term plan is for my husband and I to work all the hours, bring in staff when we need to, use this store as a warehouse. And if we're not each making at least $25,000 a year by the time May comes when our lease is over, it's time to move on. Because
Wow.
it's another thing I think of too is how hard I work, and that there is no overtime pay here. There is no real time off here. Like it is just a tremendous amount of work. And I think I'm shortchanging myself if I stay here doing this. If I'm not making at least $50,000, and if my husband's not making $50,000 a year, and of course there's the medical benefits and all those other expenses. So my plan is to get until the lease ends in May, and financially be where I want to be, or I'll just pack it up and do balloons on weekends, and I am so okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's amazing. I think people listening might hear like, wow, you're ending your dream, or but I feel like that is one of the downfalls of our industry. People have this very all or nothing mentality. And I don't think that's how it has to be. Like I said, I have a full-time job. I like that job, and it gives me so much flexibility to either do balloons or not do balloons. I can take the jobs I want. I don't feel pressured to take all of the jobs that I don't want to take. And I think that gives me a little bit of extra courage, like if it makes sense, like knowing that I don't have to take the jobs I don't want to take. Like I think if it was my only income, I would take those jobs, and I would probably then be filling my calendar with things that I don't really want to do, and also limiting those last minute big jobs that might pop up. So I feel like I'm always kind of the advocate for people keeping their day jobs if they like it. I think if they're miserable, like absolutely move on to something else. But I think that goes for balloons as well. Like if something in your business isn't working, don't feel like you're a failure if you try something new or kind of mix it up a little bit or redo your model. Like I've known lots of people that I felt so sad for closing up their retail shops, and it's like I think that's amazing. I think it's amazing that you have the courage to do that.
Yeah, life is short, and it's just short, and I want to enjoy it. And there are a lot of pieces to this business that I really enjoy a lot, but there's a lot of things about this business that are very hard. I mean, it's all weekends. There's a lot of evening things. Like it's not like everything that some people make it out to be. It's not always glamorous. Like,
Yeah.
and at the end of the day, I don't know. I'll just kind of see where things are in May, but I don't know. I'm just taking it a day at a time, I guess.
I think that's amazing. And I appreciate you being so honest. I feel like a lot of what people hear is just like, if you build it, they will come, and hang in there and try harder. It's like sometimes you need to listen to yourself, and not that those things aren't encouraging, but sometimes they're not encouraging to everybody. Like someone listening needs to hear what you're saying right now. Because people come to me all the time and are really curious about how to keep a full-time job and how to juggle balloons, and how like your path doesn't have to be full-time, 20 employees, making millions of dollars because that comes at a huge cost. Like quality of life is important to me. And if I got to the point where some of these rock stars in our industry are at, I don't think I would be enjoying my life. That's just like not where I want to go. So I think it's really important for people to kind of know what's right for them. And it sounds like you do, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, and again, it comes back to thine own self be true. And I mean, it was really hard for me because when I was at Summit, I heard people saying, I want to do this, and they're putting these big huge goals out there and financial goals, and we'll do $350,000 this year, and I'm proud of that. I think that's good, but I have no desire to do $500,000. In fact, I don't know that I want to do 350 again. And
Yeah.
I came home from Summit and I was crying. I'm like, oh my goodness, like what's happening to me?
It's priority shifting. I'm exactly like you. I did 100,000 in sales this year, and I'm really proud of that. And I have no desire to really do that again. I mean, I might, but it's financial. It's not one of my goals this year. Like last year, that was my number, and I really wanted to hit it. But this year, it's like it'd be great if I hit it, but it would also be nice if I came close and worked a lot less, or if I cut my overhead in half, or if I was able to do I want to work less and make more. That makes me
Yeah.
sound kind of lazy, but like I don't want the like, because then you hit that number, and then what's your goal next year? To double it, and then the year after to double it again. And like for me, that's just not motivating. Like the money, it's fun at first, but like after a while, I'm like, a weekend off is what I want, and a vacation. So it's like those are kind of my priorities moving into this year.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. A weekend off is so valuable to me, and I feel like I don't have a business, I have a job. And I have a job that I can't take time off, and I can't have weekends off. And it would be nice to have that choice down the road.
Absolutely. So what does that actually look like when you say, you're transitioning out? Like, I mean, frankly, I don't think, I think you're going to hit your numbers, and I think you'll stay in your shop. But if you didn't, would you sell, or would you, like, what does that transition out of the business look like?
I'm not exactly sure what it would look like. I've talked to several people about it. I don't know exactly what it would look like, but I literally have no problems closing the door, taking the inflators and balloons home with me, and doing it maybe on weekends,
hmm
and just saying, I'm planning to throw a really big goodbye party. Like, thank you for all the years. Thank you. You're wonderful customers. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And then I'll have that closure I need, I think. And I can just hand in the keys to the landlord, bring my precision airs home with me, and call it a day.
Yeah. Well, and I guess my encouragement to you, my challenge to you, I guess like phrasing it more as like a positive transition, like now we're bringing all the balloons to you so you never have to come to the store, and like we're on the move and we're expanding our delivery, like to actually spin it to look like a step up, just because I think perception is really important if you're going to keep going even on weekends.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, definitely I'll have to put some time into thinking this through,
because it doesn't sound to me like you're closing up shop. Like, to me, it just sounds like you're moving into a home-based model.
I just want to close the retail doors.
Gotcha.
Like the retail store is closed. This is our warehouse. You could order balloons online, maybe, but yeah, you definitely something I need to think about.
Yeah,
how to do it, how to spin it. It's been overwhelming. Like,
yeah.
It really has. Like, I've done a video diary, and like I'm crying one day and I'm excited the next day, and it's just like my emotions are all over the place. So I'm sure that when the time comes, I'll have a good way to spin it, like you said. Yeah, that's awesome. Yes.
Well, I think that's hard too. I feel like a lot of us don't have any exit plan. Like, literally none. I don't know if I have anything to sell when the time comes. I don't know if I would just give all my stuff away to friends. Like, I have no exit plan, because it's not a traditional job. It's like, we don't have like, oh, when you're 65, you just retire and then you have this pension. Like, that doesn't exist. So I think exit planning is something that very few people really think about. And I think the way that you're doing it is interesting, because it's not a retirement. It's like a transition and a step back. So I don't know. I think it's really interesting. I think there's so much more that we're going to learn from you and what comes next.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I did something really crazy today. Is I got my teaching certificate reinstated, and then I got it registered. So it's just nice to know that I'm not tied.
Well, and teaching, I mean, you have no flexibility during the year, except that you always have weekends off, and then you have the whole summer. So like, it is a pretty perfect schedule for balloons. That's how I got started. I was teaching. The only downfall is that I could never go to conventions. That was really hard.
Okay, gotcha.
Also, I was had no patience, and I thought I was going to kill a child, so it was good for me to transition out.
We get more patience as we get older, that's for sure. Because in my 20s, I wasn't a very patient teacher. But now as I approach 50, I think I'll have a lot more patience.
I don't know. My daughter threw a chapstick at me this morning, and I thought I was going to lose it. So I think it's still good for me to be away from teaching.
Maybe.
Well, cool. Well, where can people follow you? I think this is really exciting. I'm curious to kind of follow along and see how things go.
Right now, my go-to method is Facebook.
Okay.
Instagram, I'll put a picture up here or there. Facebook is really where I do more, and that's It's My Party. And you might have to type in It's My Party Dyer, because there are a lot of It's My Parties on Facebook.
And where are your video diaries going? Is that just for you, or is that something we can follow along with on your journey here?
Oh my goodness, I was thinking about it. I would really like to somehow have an unpublished YouTube channel that I could just let people know, like, here's what it's like to go through this messy, kind of chaotic
I would love that. Personally,
Okay.
I would love to follow along. I think that's a side that no one ever shares. That's why I wanted to talk to you in the first place, because there's a lot that I don't think people share, because I'm guilty of that too. Like, I don't know, we look human, or we look weak, or we look unsure. And I think sometimes that's a scary side to show, but I love that you're just kind of so open about this. Like, it's just such a benefit to all of us to see that, like, oh, yeah, sometimes not everyone knows all the answers up front all the time. Like,
I think I'll find an outlet to share those, because it's therapeutic for me too, because it gets my feelings like out there instead of stuffing them inside. So you'll hear more about that then.
Good. I'm excited. Well, whenever it becomes available, we'll make sure to get it out there for listeners if they want to tune in somehow or connect them with you, because again, I think it's super valuable. BalloonCoach.com has been a sponsor of The Bright Balloon since pretty much day one, because like this podcast, Balloon Coach focuses on growing your balloon business. I personally love Balloon Boss Mastermind because it is a group that constantly challenges me to grow my business, think about things in new ways, and I'm able to ask questions to other balloon business owners who usually have more experience than I do. From monthly webinars to in-person events and downloadable resources, BalloonCoach.com really has it all. So check out the link in the show notes wherever you're listening to learn more about BalloonCoach.com. And then the last thing I wanted to ask, I'm going to put you kind of on the spot here, but you seem so like centered and at peace. And I know you do a lot of like reading and looking at your feelings. Do you have any resources, any books, recommendations? Selfishly for me, I want to read them, but also for our readers or our listeners. I'm sorry.
Okay, so here's a confession. My first year into the balloon business, I was a terrible raging alcoholic. So I've been involved in a 12-step program for about 11 years now. I read a lot of spiritual literature. I like to exercise. I spend time in prayer and meditation. I'm a firm believer in massage and in lately Reiki, which is like energy therapy. And I have so many books on my phone right now that I wouldn't even know what to recommend first. But I would say Wayne Dyer is probably one of my favorite authors. And there's just a lot of spiritual teachers out there that I follow because that's probably why I keep growing and I keep shedding and I keep letting layers go. So if you were to ask for a specific book, the one that I listened to this morning at the gym is called True Balance. And it's by Sonia Choquette. And she's amazing. Everything that she says, I resonate with. And a lot of it is about boundaries, like, and standing in my truth and standing in my power. And I needed to listen to her today. So that's a good one. I'd read that one first.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of us just keep going back to the small business space. Like we want to know more about business and business and business. And like sometimes it's just not about that. It's about yourself and your life. And like you just said, balance. Like I think that is so important. For me, I can become like a workaholic otherwise. So it's good to have kind of that balance reminder.
Yes, and I was a workaholic for a lot of years. And the more I want to like shed out of that workaholism, the more I don't want to store.
Yeah.
So that's become clear to me.
Yeah. Well, very cool. Well, anything else you want to close with?
I'm just excited about my video diary now. Now you got me thinking about that.
Good. So, I am too. I think that's, even if all you do is share it with yourself, I think that's really cool. But selfishly, I want you to share it with me too.
Yes.
Well, I'm really excited for you. I'm excited to follow along. I'm excited that you're making, I think, hard choices, but it seems like you're happy and you have a plan, and I'm really excited and encouraged by you.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
That wraps up this episode. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, I tried to keep it bright and light in a few minutes or less. I'll talk to you next time. For more information about any of the resources or courses mentioned in today's show, please head to thebrightballoon.com or check the show notes wherever you're listening.